black political life. The if you grew up in the 90s, you're still in the, that was still um, that was still the Democratic Party connected to the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And you hear Republicans say, oh, more of us voted for him. Yeah, but those Republicans disappeared. That Republican Party that supported the Civil Rights Act evaporated within 2 or 3 years. They became the party of Reagan that opposed the Civil Rights Act. And Ronald Reagan did oppose the Civil Rights Act. So that memory, you're talking about black people who grew up. Ronald Reagan became the standard bearer of the Republican Party. And older black folks saw the Democratic Party as a counter to the Ronald Reagan Party, that the Barry Goldwater Party, the party that Lee Atwater said, we talk about taxes and fiscal responsibility as a code word to say the N word. That's the Republican Party that black voters remember, older black voters remember. The Republican Party that opposed movements towards their economic advancement. The Republican Party that objected to black upward placement as a threat to white economic opportunity. That's the party that is going to get the support of older black voters who enjoyed and experienced economic gains during the Clinton administration, and that's the Democratic Party that black people associate with Barack Obama. You would be surprised how many young black men don't give a crap about Barack Obama. That was 12 years ago. People forget. Young black men today, 19, 20, 21, they were pretty young when Obama won. And they don't necessarily see themselves as part of his experience. It doesn't mean that they hate the guy. It just means they're saying, well, I'm not seeing it. They're not seeing the economic benefits, or not feeling it, and not feeling that the Democratic Party has done anything for them. They don't necessarily feel like the Republican Party has done anything for them either. But the thing about Trump is, and what you hear a lot from young black men is, at least you know what kind of racist he is. It's not that they question that he's a racist. They question whether or not there's a big difference between how racist Donald Trump is and how racist Joe Biden, Kamala Harris is. And I have to say, I feel him on that. Because I'll say this flat out. I do not believe the liberal left is less racist than the conservative right. I don't believe it. I don't believe that the feminist, black justice, whatever community, the intersectional critical race theory community, is more pro-black male than the conservative community. I don't. And as far as black women, I've seen that story. I've been involved in groups with I've been involved in groups that had that had black women in it, non-black women, dealing with racism. And I this is really when I got a glimpse of the black folks gravitating away from the left and the Democratic Party. Being in a group with several black women and watching the black women who embrace this critical race theory, that embrace this anti-racist ideology, sit quietly while the other women in the group who are not black women go down the line and blacklist and denigrate black woman after black woman for not sufficiently being in agreement with this ideology, in agreement with the victim ideology. Then to see those black women say nothing because one, they're afraid of being demonized, and two, they were willing to watch this go down as long as it benefited them. You see, the problem is it, today being black is kind of thrown in a big mix of a multitude of other identities, a multitude of other things. And it doesn't have the same unique value that it did in 1993. And those of us who remember the black game in 1993, today it's like most the hardcore pro-black idealists like Cory Bush or whatever, they're they're sitting in a mostly white space. You know, today the most pro-black talking people I know, a lot of times are the same people when they see a young straight black man at an event, they'll come run over to me or whoever, if I was doing security or running events. Hey, you need to keep an eye on them. Because today, it's very easy for them to transition from pro black to, well, you're a man and therefore you're a predator, or you're a straight man, therefore you're dangerous. Today, blackness is sort of at the back of the intellectual bus of the intersectional whatever. And Coleman Hughes made a very good point. He says you had Black Lives Matter, which was focused on black people being abused, killed by police and citizens. And when they introduced Black Trans Lives Matter, he said, well, it's not that there's a problem with trans people, but he's saying you've now done exactly what you accused the white folks of doing when they says all lives matter, or what about poor white people, or what have you, is you introduce these variables and you begin to confuse the conversation. And whereas white people are condemned for doing that, this modern um, justice ideology does it to the point where even if you're a black woman, you're not you're not granted that space. You know, there's a lot of black women who believe there's only two genders, and they're vehemently attacked for being oppressors. There are black women who are not interested in having um, trans women compete against um, girls in sports. You're not going to see that heartily embraced in inner city black communities. You're not going to see a lot of young black men wanting a trans woman playing against their sister in a basketball game. How do you deal with that? The current mode is to just call them misogynists and say they're part of the patriarchy. That's stupid. This is why black men, I think, a lot of young black men, maybe are saying, hey, taking a look at Trump. Because they can sense they don't have a place. They're on an island. You know, these young black men feel like they're on an island. And Donald Trump at least gave you, he's so feckless and transactional that he's actually a decent investment. You don't have to buy into anything. He doesn't really feel like a committed racist. He just feels like an older white guy who's willing to say whatever it takes to please the guy next to him. And that's not really scary to modern young. When you look at what it is that Donald Trump did to try to attract young black men, it was economics. That's what they're talking about. They're not concerned that some person over there might call them the N word. That was our generation. That was the 1990s. That's the kind of stupid crap. I would say that the young black men today are the young. I think a lot smarter than we were, because during our age, in back in the early 1990s, the whole thing was about what we thought white people were thinking about us or saying about us when we weren't around. We were taught to look for a racist under every rock, when we really should have been being taught how to look for a dollar under every rock. Because, and again, Coleman and his guest talked about it, because racism had decreased so dramatically